Welcome to the fastest daf in town, Tanil Masechtas Sanhedrin daf Beis. We're starting a new Masechta. Let's begin. Says the Mishnah, Dine Mominus V'Shleisha. When it comes to the laws of money, the Gemara is going to learn this out. How do we know it's three? Gazelos V'Chavalos V'Shleisha. Also, when it comes to the laws of stealing and hurting someone, you need three judges. The Rashi says, "Kaifer b'pikadain shemeshach ba'yadai havigazlan." This is someone who has a pikadain by them of someone's, and he denies it. This is considered to be someone who is a gazlan. Also, someone who is, the Rashi says, "Chaytiv miyad chavero" is a gazlan. So these are all different examples. Okay, fine. And chavalos is you hit someone, you're chayiv chamisha devarim, which we saw already in Masechtas Baba Kama. Fine. And we bring down all this psukim to Rashi. So let's continue. Nezek, v'chatzi nezek, tashlumi kefa, tashlumi arba v'chamisha b'shleisha. So all these other cases also is three judges. The paying for damages or for chatzi nezek, as we saw in the beginning of Baba Kama, if you have an ox that gores the first couple times, it's a tam, you only pay chatzi nezek. Kefel is a person who steals, he has to pay back double, as opposed to a gazlan, he pays only the keren. Tashumi arba b'chamisha, when it comes to, let's see if Rashi actually says this, the shor oseh shetav chalei machroi. Okay. So if a person steals an ox or a sheep, slaughters and sells it, so you have to pay 4 or 5. So in the din is b'shleisha. Ha'oines mafate v'hamaitzi shemer b'shleisha. So when it comes to a person who's ma'anis, rapes or seduces a woman, moitzi shemra, which of course is referring to the situation where a person, Rashi actually says, l'matzasal avid chabasulim. So there's a punishment of mea kesef. So the din is b'shleisha. Divra me'echam. Omer moitzi shemra be'estim b'shleisha. Actually, the case of moitzi shemra is din in 23. And the reason for that is because memnei sheish bo dinin nefashos. Why? It says Rashi, she'im emes hayish zins tachtav hi b'skil v'din nefashos be'inin chav gimel. So she would actually be punished with skila if it was actually true by Namarasa. So let's look at question 6. So one of the answers in our Mishnah is by Moitzi Shemer. Okay. So those are the two answers by Moitzi Shemer. And by Makas we have this machlokes. Okay, let's keep going. Ibra Chaydish b'shleisha. When it comes to Ibra Chaydish, and the Gemara is going to explain exactly what that is. Ibra Hashana, says Rashi, Shai Basin Yoshin Rarayni Masrichin La'amir Nemnei Aviv V'Tikufa. So the question is, do they need to add an extra Adar in order that Pesach should fall out in the month of in the season of spring? B'shleish Devra Meir B'Shem Oimer B'Shleisha Maschilin. They begin with 3 Umachamisha Noisim and Noisnin, and then they have 5 when it comes to the back and forth. V'Garmer B'Shiv, they need 7 at the end. V'Im Garmer B'Gimel Mubaris. However, if they did complete with 3, that's still good. Smichas Akanim, Rashi says, Al Roish Par Elm Dol V'Shil Tzibor. This is referring to a person who violated making a mistake, right? So it's a Smichas Akanim. So on this situation, they have a chiyuv to have to bring a davar halam davar shel tzibor. Verifas egla b'shleisha, which of course is referring to a homicide. So you need 3 witnesses for that, 3 judges rather. Divri Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'chamisha. You need 5. So there's a machlokus, but the question of Dirsha's question 6 was between 3 and 23. Hachalitza, which of course we learn in the Yavamas, the mitzvah of chalitza. V'hamiunin, when it comes to miyun, says Rashi, Yisayim katana shiasiya either ima v'yacheha l'daita. So let's say she doesn't have a father, so she gets married off by either her mother or older brother. L'daita, with their consent, yatzv'loi get b'miin kol zman shloi gadol tachtav, so she could leave the marriage. V'shloish being you need 3. The tikkun rabbanan came to raisa tikkun. Oinin the rabbanan that miyun is the rabbanan. The midaraisa feel miyin loy boy. The in kiddushi katana klum. El in king kashovia. It's only because as Bita Nasatisha said that the father has the right to marry off no one else. So it's only really din the rabbanan. So technically she doesn't even need anything. So it means it din the rabbanan. So chitza v'hamiyunin is b'shleisha. Neta ravai. So a person wants to be mechalel his produce from the 4th year onto money, or meiser sheni, same thing when it comes to the years 1, 2, 4, and 5. The 10% it's too much to bring to Yerushalayim, so you redeem it to money. Shein damid yaduin b'shleisha. In the situation says Rashi going Paris, we're dealing with fruits. V'yer kivu shein lehem shar b'shuk. There's no exact valued assessed amount in the marketplace, so therefore you need 3 people to help you out with that. So a person says Rashi habol lift dice and you want to redeem it, your hektish you need 3 shleisha. Erechin, when it comes to the din of erechin metalton, the Gemara is going to explain this. B'shleish need 3. Behuda oimer echad mehen kayin. One of them has to be a kayin because the parsha does say the word kayin in there. However, with karkais, when it comes to hektish of karka, then tish of a kain. You need 9, and the 10th person needs to be a kain. V'adam kiyaitz mehen. And when it comes to adam, says Rashi, haba liftais atzma im yad hektish. You want to redeem yourself, so kiyaitz. Well, you need 10 people just the same. The Gemara is going to ask exactly adam mikadosh. How can a person become kaidish? Okay. Dini nefashis. All that is basically dini mamnis. Then the Mishnah continues with dini nefashis. Be'esim v'shleish is 23. Like all matters of life and death, you need 23. The Gemara is going to explain that. Haraiva v'hanirva, a person who lived with an animal, or vice versa. Be'esrim v'shleish shnema v'harakta esa'isha v'esabahema. That not only the person is killed, but also the animal. V'oimer v'esabahema to haroigu. And it also says the animal's killed, so therefore it's referring to echad anirva v'echad roiva. Shor niskol, also when it comes to an ox that needs to be stoned, that's killed, is be'esem shleish shnemar shor yisach v'gambal yumos. Kamisas balam kak misas ashor. So just like if you would sentence a person to death, obviously it doesn't mean you actually killed a person by shor niskol, but it means that it has to be b'fanav, and you need to have 23, so too when it comes to the animal. And it's not just by a shor, but hazav, v'arya, v'day, v'namar, v'bardos, v'nachash, misas meser v'shleisha. It's brought down in Tfilas HaShachar and Brachos that these other animals, the same din applies. If they're killing animals, they get killed. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Kol Kaidim L'Hargan Zacha. Whoever kills these animals first is Zaycha. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Misasim Esem Shleisha. Again, it really should be done with 23. And then we have 2 dots, but this is a long Mishnah. Ein danin lois a shevet v'las a navi a sheker v'las kain gadol el alpi based in shel shiva echad. So we had 3, we had 23, now we're up to 71. So when it comes to a shevet, says Rashi, rubo shel shevet she'avdu vodazar b'mezid. If the majority of the people worship vodazara, so then you need a based in hagadol or a navi sheker, and the Gemara is going to ask, how do we know? And it has to be 71. Okay. Ve'ein moitzin l'mechamos harishus el alpi based in shilshem echad. If you're going to expand, says Rashi, not mechamos mitzvah, but kol ha-mechama karishus levad mechamos Yeshua, excluding Yeshua's conquering shahis lichmar sayat Yisrael. So that was a mechamos mitzvah. So basically anything else is mechamos rishus. Ein moisifan al ir vel hazarais. We don't build onto Yerushalayim or to the Azara. El alpi based in Shilshem Echad. You need that consultation by the base of the Gadol. In Oisen Sanhedrin Shvatim. El alpi based in Shil Shivim Echad, says Rashi. Sanhedrin Ois Shahayu Moishivim Sanhedrin Katana Shil Chav Gimel. B'chol every year we used to have small Sanhedrins, Sanhedrin Gedolah, in every city. of 23, as the pasuk says, "Titin l'cha b'chol sharecha sricha beis din hagadol shev'shlosh gazos l'asas v'yeshivam." So you can't just open up your local 23. The beis din hagadol of 71 has to basically approve it. In oisin irni dachas LP based in Shilshev Echad, again in irni dachas of a city of idol worshippers. In oisin irni dachas besfar, we don't consider a city, even though it has all the other requirements of an irni dachas by a border. V'lo sholosh, we don't want to knock down 3 cities because it's going either, as Safar's Gemara is going to explain, is dangerous because you don't want to have an open border. Which of course is apropos for 2024 in the United States, but also you don't want to have 3 because again that's causing a whole lot of problems and openings and issues. 1 or 2 is okay. Why does it have to say achas o shtaim? Just say shtaim. Sanhedrin Gadol Haisa Shel Shem Echad. The Sanhedrin Gadol was 71. But Katana Shel Esem Shoisha, and the small one's 23. So Manan the Gadol Shehi Shel Shem Echad. How do we know? Shenemer. Asli Shivim Izim Zikni Yisrael Moishal Gabein. Because we had 70 Zakanim and Moshe was above them, so he was number 71. Omer Shivim actually takas 70. The Shivim Zakanim, and that's it. We don't include Moshe. Manai Lakatatashi Shel Esrim B'Shloish. Anyway, 23. Shnamar B'Shavto Ada V'Tzila Ada. So Ada, the word Ada, Sheifetes, is referring to judges. The Ada Matzeles. And an Ada will save. Harikan Esrim. So since you have the word Ada and Ada, the word Ada is 10, and we went out from the Meraglim, numerous places. This is also in Tfilas Shachar. So you have 10 and 10. Harikan Esrim. Menayin L'Ada Shiyasar. Okay, here we go. Shnemer Ad Masel Ada Har Hazayis Yasei Yeshuv Koli. So out of the Meraglim, out of the 12, 10 were left, which was the 8. Menayin Lohavi Oid Shloisha. So if there should be 20, why 3? Mamasha Shnemer Lo Siachar Rabbi Morois. When it already says you don't go after the majority for bad, Shomeani Shahaisa Mehemotaiva. It's mashma to free him. Rov helps. So it's you don't go buster Rov, a simple majority when it comes to killing someone, however, or punishing them. However, Lataiva maybe you do. So Im Kain Lomanemer Acharab Lahatais, which is mashma Mahatais, which tells you that already. Lo Kihatayas Chalataiva Hatayas Ra. It means that way we bend to the bad is not the same as to the good. When it comes to the good, the majority of being innocent, you only need one more. So the majority of being guilty, you need a greater majority of two more for on the innocent, as opposed to the innocent side, you only need 1. As we continue base with base, so therefore that really just now gets to 22. However, in base in shakel, says Rashi, in oisin base in zugais, you don't make it even. If it's a 50-50 split, then haviulahu palga palga. The Gemara and Daf Yud Zayin parach yivan in base in shakel. Since you don't have an even amount, the Masrachas Esem Shlosh 23 hatoyil ra pishnayim. So it's not going to be 2 more guilty. It's not going to be because then we're not being 12 to 11. So and then if it's not 12 to 11, then it becomes 13 to 10. So it's either there's going to be 13 thinking the guy's guilty, or and then it'll be 13 to 10, or 12 will think he's guilty. It'll be 12 to 11, but 12 to 11 is not good enough. So it has to be at least 3. So how do we ever find 2 more saying guilty than innocent? So that's something which the Gemara is going to deal with much later on Daf Yud Zayin, which we'll get to soon. Then based on Shogam Misim Elena Echad. So Harikan Esim Shloisha. The Kami Hibeir Utiv Royal Sanhedrin. How big should a city be to be fit for a Sanhedrin at all? So Meyav Esser 100. Meyav Esser 120. They have 120 people. The Gemara is going to explain Keneged me. Rabbi Nechemia Omer Masai Mishloishim. Actually, 230 Keneged Sar Asarais. And this makes sense because you have to have, as is brought down in Parshas Yisro, that you should have judges of a 10 to 1 ratio. So therefore, if you have 10 judges, 230 people, so that would be correspond to 20, the Sanhedrin of 23. Okay. All right, let's just keep on going. Obviously, there's a bunch of questions, but we'll get to them soon. Says the Gemara, to what? Then who understand? We mentioned in the Mishnah, which is also the name of the parak, dini mamnos b'shleisha. So that's the same thing as gezelos v'chavolos. So it should all be inclusive. So why does it mention gezelos v'chavolos? So Amar Rabbi Avoy mahin katani mahin dini mamnos gezelos mahin dini mamnos gezelos v'chavolos. In other words, it's just basically explaining what are examples of dini mamnos that require three examples, such as gezelos and chavolos. Of hodos v'avois, lo. When it comes to hodos v'avois, no. Says Rashi, shnehen al iski malvehin. Both of these concepts have to do with a loan, borrowing money. Hodos shaboli dain be'edi hada shemevi edim sha'imrim b'vnenu hoidala. So basically, you have witnesses that says in front of me, you admitted that you owed the money. Halvois shebalidain be'edi halva shemini b'vnenu halva v'loy kaifer b'shtein. So basically, you're denying that the loan took place. Either the first case was there was witnesses that said in front of us it was hoidois, you admitted to it, or halvois, that again there are witnesses that there was actually a loan and you were kaifer. So in those situations, we don't have the same din as our Mishnah. Okay, Sricha. De'i Tana Dini Mamnis. If it only said that language, Havamina Fil Hodos V'Havos. So you would think our Mishnah includes Hodos V'Havos. Tana Gezelos V'Chavolos, to tell you that no, it's got to be something comparable to Gezelos V'Chavolos, like stealing, but not regarding loans. De'i Tana Gezelos V'Chavolos, I already mentioned that. V'Lochatani Dini Mamnis, they didn't say that more generic statement. Havamina Havim Huadin Fil Hodos V'Havos. You would think that it does include Hodos V'Havos as well. So why does it give those examples? Because when it comes to the requirement of having three judges, it's actually written in the psukim over there by these cases. That you should bring to a court. When it comes to that's when it comes to gezela, and when it comes to chavolos, it's the same thing. What's the difference if you're hurting a person by their body or hurting someone by their wallet? In other words, when it comes to chavolos, there's also a chiv of having to pay chamisha devarim. You have to pay. So maybe the reason why, if the Mishnah only mentioned gezelos chavolos, it may not be coming to exclude anything. It's only there because those are the examples in which we actually have psukim which support how many people need to be judges. So Tana, Mahin Dini Mominus, Gezelos Chavolos, to tell you Avu Hadais Havais Lo, to exclude it. Now, well, what does it mean? Says Rashi, Hilchos Sharin Hutana Ladini Malvil Mitinu Mai. What exactly is it coming to exclude? Okay, I understand how it sounds like three, right? That's what the Mishnah sounds like. Maybe it just means that when it comes to Hodos Vavos, you don't need three judges. It's not true. When it comes to even in case of Halva, the din is that you need to have three. And if you only have two, it's not a din. It's not acceptable. So therefore you need three there as well. So then what's the distinction? When our case of Gezelos Chavolos, we require mumchen, we need expert judges. However, when it comes to the case of Haidos Vavais, you do need three, but they could even be head yaitais. So Mike Savar, what exactly does he hold? Now, Ik Savar would be Parshas Kosav Khan, Boy Nami Mumchen. So what is that referring to? This we actually had in numerous places. So, if you look at Rashi, the Alfina Mine might have a mix of Sataina. When it comes to a person who says, the Malva says, you owe me 100, and the Leva says, no, I only owe you 50, so you have a chi of deraisa to have to make a shvua, so you shava. Shekasa, so what is that referring to? B'shemer chinam. That's referring to actually a case where you're watching an item for free. Lava shemer chinam koi, actually it's not. The shaimrin alpha bishla hoidem mixas chayiv l'shava. Because we know that when it comes to a shaymer, even if he doesn't admit to anything, he's still chayav to make a shua. The hoida mixas ataina are parshas the imkesav talvikoi. the whole notion of Haida Mixus Ataina is by the Parsha of being Kesef Tava by a loan. So Hasam to be in a Haida Mixus. The Eloi Moide Klum, the person doesn't admit to anything, is Kaifer Bakoil. So Chazaka Im Tainus Hatoive Emes, Loha Yachel Zil Hez Panav Negdov Loimaloi Hilvesi. So when it comes to a loan, someone did you a taiva, someone did you a favor. So if you're kaifer bakoil, so in that situation you have to make a shvua because a person wouldn't be meis panav. So therefore, since a person's not going to be meis panav, he's going to at least admit to something, which is a moed b'mixas ataina, which is why it's only a chiv to make a shvua by a moed b'mixas and not moed kaifer bakoil when it comes to a loan. Hilka chafil shvua boy. You don't need to make a shvua by moed b'mixas when it comes to a loan, because they did you a favor of a pikadoin. But how about, says Rashi, when it comes to a pikadoin, where you're actually the one who's doing the other guy a favor because you're watching the item, the leka gemils chasadim, right? He's not doing you a favor, you're actually doing him a favor. Therefore, meiz panav v'kaifer koil u'vay shvua. So when it comes to the case of pikadoin, even the case of kaifer koil, you are mechuyev to make a shvua. V'hai tanan masnisin isvir le'nami dehaya sheyomer ki huzeh. Halva mashma hari nemer elokim b'hai kradam mashma mumchin loshen shrara, etc. Okay, so is the parsha going in the case of a loan? And if it says elokim, it requires mumchin, right? So it says elokim, so you do need mumchin. So again, if you want to tell me your parshas kosav kan suli boy nemer mumchin the iksaver any parshas kosav kan shoshalamli, so then how do you know three at all? So actually, we do make this link, and therefore you need three. But if you need three, then maybe you actually need mumchen. You're right. When it comes to haidais, when it comes to loans, etc., you really should require three expert judges. The only reason why we are lenient when it comes to a loan is because of Rabbi Chanina. What is that? The Rabbi Chanina, Devar Torah echadin menos v'echadin nefashos, but Risha v'chakira requires not only when it comes to Din nefashos, but also by Din mamnas to investigate and interrogate in great depth. It says Rashi, Sarch livdai kesa edim. You need to examine the witnesses. Be'ez a yoim, be'ez a shah, halvoi. So there's drishas and chakiras, right? You have to. So you have to ask him, like, what's the day, what's the time, right? In order to be able to potentially get him to potentially become Eidim Zayim. It has to be Eid Shiyat to Yochel Hazam. As we continue to have Gimel Manal, Shenemar Mishbarechi Yelachem. And really, all the dinim should be the same, straight across the board, which means that we should require drishas v'chakiras also when it comes to dinim momnas. So why are we lenient? Because we want to be lenient when it comes to loans. Because if we start making all these stringencies, the person's not going to want to lend money anymore because there's all these stringencies. It's like, you know what, I may not get my money. It's not worth it. Says Rashi, Shotino Delos, Sheyimnu Melhavois. You're going to stop lending money. Shema yichpar. Maybe he'll deny that he owed you money. And ve'edim yitoi. And you'll have witnesses, but they're going to make a mistake. They may make a mistake with their testimony. All of a sudden, I lost my money. I know I lent this guy money. I don't want to lend him any more money. I don't want to lend anyone any more money because there's only a downside. First of all, I can't charge interest, right? Because it's against the Torah. So there's no monetary gain. I'm doing chesed by helping this guy. But what ends up happening if he denies it completely? All of a sudden, I'm going to bring witnesses. The witnesses don't do what they're supposed to do with the drishas chakiras. But therefore, because of that, we don't want to require drishas of chakiras. But hachinami, says Rashi, shemol yimsa mumchin l'chayful ladin. Maybe you're not going to be able to find Eidim mumchin to be able to get this guy to court, and therefore, because of that shaltino delos b'filavin, we are lenient when it comes to haydais v'avois. Elamiyata, so says the Gemara, tovo yishlamu. So what will happen? They'll make a mistake, and they won't pay, just like my mumchin. So kosh geinata noel delos mifni lavin, says Rashi. Hedyoitais bedini mominus lo yashlimu. So we say that we should require hedyoitais bedini mominus not to have to pay. Kivan de bershus rabbanan kanachti havelhu kemumchin. When it comes to an expert, if he makes a mistake, he doesn't have to pay. So, but when it comes to dini nafar, when it comes to rather the dinim of a hedget, he does have to pay. But maybe we shouldn't have to have him pay. So Rashi says, Koshkin shatanol delas. In the event that hedyotas don't have to pay, savar dilma toy beidino patuhu umasidina. I don't want this because again, it's possible if we don't hold the hedyotas, then to have to pay. So then again, a mistake will happen. I'll end up losing my money. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's look at question 7. So one is Pashit, that when it comes to loans, you do not need mumchin. You just have regular 3, and that's it. And there will be in drisha v'chakira. You don't need drishas v'chakiras. Okay, let's look. There's a whole bunch of questions over here. Let's see how many we have. Question TA11. Madu b'dini haydas avos sarach gimel dinim dayanim harikra helukim nemer b'gzelos v'chavalos. We didn't exactly complete this, but let me at least start this off. So if the pasuk is by gzelos v'chavalos, so why by dini haydas havos sarach gimel dayanim? So midiraisa mishum erev Parshios. This may be something which we're going to attack a see, but I think that's kind of what's being alluded to over here by Erev Parshios. Okay, so the Erev Parshios Kosav Khan TA11. Okay, is so therefore we see that even though it's true, it's only by Gzelos Chavalos, but it's coming to include other cases as well, right? That's what it says over here, because the Iker Gimel the Ksivi b'Gzelos v'Chavalos Ksivi, right? And therefore we say Erev Parshios Kasav Kan to include everything too. Okay, TB 12. Elu halachas in mamnas husker besugin shetami mishum shalotino dels mifnei lavin, which is the same as question 7, which is Gimel with Aleph. TB 12. Let's see what we wrote over here. Okay. Question. And now we have Rabbi Gibber for when I was in Miami. Let's see some of his questions. Probably there's a whole bunch. There's 20 questions on 5 blot. Al eza devarim nechlu b'mishni be'inin gimel o chav gimel. So Mosi Shemer Marcus. Al eza devarim nechlu b'mishni be'inin gimel o hey. I got one of them wrong. I wrote Ibor Shana, which should be correct. Kama anoshim yubi'ir tehi royal Sanhedrin katana 120 or 230. Lamul be'inan mumchin begimel dayanim shel haidos v'avois. So there's 2 answers. I wrote B'derabbanan, not to close doors for the borrowers, but really should require. And then the second one I got wrong. .com.